Hello, my name is Christy Cosina, and this is an introduction to Adobe Captivate buttons. I've created about 5 slides to kind of show the various functions that buttons can have. This first slide, I have an introductory slide, and essentially it's got nothing on it. If we attempted to preview this slide, it would essentially play our Captivate lesson essentially like a video. It'll go through each slide, and there'll be no way to stop it. So it's important to add buttons because they can pause the lesson until the user clicks it. Another thing I want to show you before we start is if you click Project and Skin Editor, essentially what happens is that you'll have this navigation bar at the bottom. Now, you're welcome to use that, it's helpful, but if we're creating buttons, we really don't need this, and I don't like to have it on there, but it can help you if you have a way to pause the screen and then just click forward if you want. But since we're creating buttons, I want to take this off, so we'll just uncheck this and it'll take that off. And then you can just exit by clicking the X, and then we can continue. Okay, so if you want, we can create a next button, and we can do this by adding a shape. Or we can add it by doing an interaction and a button. So let's do a button, and we can just move it over here, and you can have it like this. This is a transparent button. You could change the the caption to something, or we can make it there's a text button, which is similar, or you can do an image button. Image button is nice because it has a lot of the different features that you might want, which is hovering over and having it look different. Like let's see, we'll pick the next button right here, and let's see. Well, we can look at that, and if you like where it is, you can leave it there, or you can drag and drop it somewhere else. Let's see. So if you hover over it, it kind of does a little flicker like that. So that'll appear in the output lesson as well. So so this is nice to have, but essentially it won't do anything unless you tell it to do something. So we can click on it because we're in style right now. The style changes what it looks like, or you can go into actions. Actions tell it what to do. So if you want, it defaults to go to next slide, which is helpful for us because we want it to go to the next slide. Or you could tell it to go to do many other different things just by clicking on it, and it there's a bunch of options in the drop downs. But we want it to go to the next slide, so we click next slide. And that should be it for this slide, unless you want to add anything else. So we'll click on slide number 2, and what we can do here as a different kind of button action is we can add multiple smart shapes, use them as buttons, and then tell them to go to different slides, which gives learners a choice. So we can add a smart shape. There's different shapes you can use. I've used rectangles, rounded rectangles. It just depends on I guess your preference. Let's see, we can go click on that and then drag and drop the size that we want. Let's see. We can change the color because it defaults to this, which is okay, but we can change it to something else. We can make it a solid color, and you can maybe just leave the color like that, and I like to make it solid looking. Let's see. Let's go over here, and if you double click it, you can add text, which is nice. This is why I like using smart shapes as buttons, because you can certainly add text and change the text features so that it looks pretty much how you want it, or however you want it to look. So we'll just say option 1 because it just whatever topic you want, it can just be the option 1. Let's see. Maybe we can change that to bold and add a shadow. Well, the shadow will add it to the button, so it depends on what you want. So we got option 1, and we can use that as a button. You have to check this use as a button, or else it won't do use it as a button. And then we go to actions, And if we can go to next slide, or we can go, what I like to do with these buttons if you want to have options is jump to a specific slide. Now we have 5 slides, so you can jump to slide 3, which is probably what I want to do for this first button. And then we're going to create a second button. So I'm going to Control C, copy it, and then we're going to Control V, paste it. And it pastes the button just as you copied it, so you can put one underneath the other. We're going to double click to change the option to option 2. And for option 2, if we click actions, we can change the jump to slide number to slide number 4. And so when the student clicks on one or the other, they'll go to the slide that we designated for each of these buttons. So you can leave the highlight function like this. I noticed that it's kind of not really easy to see it on highlight. Under style, you can usually mess with the down or the rollover state. Like if you wanted to change the rollover state to something darker, we could do that, and it highlights like that. So let's leave it like that. Let's go do the other one too, because that looks a bit nicer. But you got to make sure that you do the rollover and not the normal state like I just did. I believe it was that one, yeah. So we got to do rollover and the color that you want. So yeah, see, if you roll over that, it changes so that it indicates to the learner that they are hovering over that specific button. Alright, let's see. Next slide, this is the first choice slide. If you click choice or option 1, you can go to this slide. And for here, we're going to introduce a button that tells the learner, it's like a hyperlink, it tells the learner to visit maybe a website outside of the lesson. And so we can do a smart shape. Let's see, double click, and we can tell the learner to go Google search maybe. Alright, so after we typed Google search, we can go over to the properties menu and check the use as a button. It'll show the style and of the style of the smart shape here, and then we can go to actions, and it defaults to the next slide. So we're going to change this to open a URL or file. And since we're trying to look at Google search, we're just going to do www.google.com. And there's a button here that you can click in. I usually like to click a new tab because when we publish our lesson, it's going to open up a browser tab or window, and we can do either a new tab or new window, so it'll be new, and it'll be next to the lesson when the user clicks on it. So remember to click that, and we'll leave it as infinite attempts. Don't worry about this. We'll talk about this in the next slide. And so essentially what will happen, if you want to keep the style, see, I just don't like the way that the rollover looks, so we can just have maybe a gradient, or let's see, just I would do this, that's fine, so that it just looks like that when we hover over it. So you'll want to play around with that. You can change the features or the characteristics to make it look however button you want, so just keep that in mind. Let's see, so if you want, you can align it horizontally. You can align it vertically. Oops, you can align it vertically. And so it'll just kind of make it look a little nicer there. The next slide will be choice 2. This is, if we go back to our second slide, we have option 1, option 2. This second button will take the learner to our choice 2 slide. And here I'm just going to give you an example of another way that we can add buttons. There are many ways to add buttons, but here I want to show you how you can possibly create maybe an assessment or a question slide, because there are ways that you can do assessments by adding in like a question slide this way, if you click slides and then hit question. But I'll just show you how to do one, because you can do it with buttons too. So I guess, for instance, we can do a question on how many days are typically in a year according to the Gregorian calendar. So if we want to start adding buttons, we can add a smart shape and maybe add a button here. And I'm just going to change it to a solid fill. We could do this color and do 100%. And let's see, change the we'll select use as a button, and so you highlight over it and use it as a button, and then change the rollover. We can do that blue again, that's fine. Let's put some text in here. Let's just say, since we're talking about days in a year, we do 364. Let's see, let's just change the text in here to make it bold, kind of stand out a little bit more, make it a little bit bigger. Change it to 364. I could change the size of the smart shape, and let's see if we can just kind of move it right here and do actions. We can just do on success, go to the next slide. I think the next slide is our last slide, so we can just do that. Let's see, and then we have, for each button, there's typically a success, failure, hint. Now, if we want to put maybe a success, well, I guess for this one is a wrong answer, so we'll do failure. Well, we'll do success, because this is going to be a wrong answer. The success will display what happens when you click on it. So it's not necessarily the right answer. Like for the success text here, we're going to put, if we double click on that, we're going to do that is incorrect. Try again. And so we can click out of it, and then click back in, and change the size of this feedback box. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're just going to copy, paste, because we want to make another button, and we'll just stick it underneath it, and we'll do double click. Well, I guess we first have to click out of that, and then we'll just click back in. We'll do 365, and we'll do that again, copy, paste, so we can have like a third option. You can have as many options as you want. Let's see, click out, click back in, and we'll do 366. Alright, so we've got 3 incorrect. Well, one of them's going to be correct, so we're going to change the correct option by clicking on the button here. And you're going to keep the success here. This is going to be, that is correct. Correct. Great job. And first, what we want to do is, on success of these clicks for these other buttons that aren't correct, we want them to just pause. Pause, because we don't want them to do anything. If we click on it and it says go to next slide, it's going to go to the next slide, and we don't want them to. So we're going to do the same thing with the 366 button. We're going to tell it to pause. And so on success of this incorrect one, it'll say that is incorrect, try again. So let's go double check this one to make sure that it's correct. It'll move the student forward. So yes, go to the next slide if it is successfully clicked. And if you're welcome to, on any of these, have a hint caption as well. The hint, what will happen is you could, if you highlight or hover over any of these, it'll tell it something. If you want to give it a hint, say, maybe the hint could be something like, try to think again, maybe. You can tell the student that, it'll be right there. So it just depends where you want the hint. The hint I usually like to have kind of like in a center area somewhere, so it's not giving the answer away. So we don't have to have the hint caption, or we can have the hint caption, it's fine. So these are this is like an easy, simple assessment slide if you want to just kind of test the learners on what they know. On the final slide, we could just maybe have an exit slide, like this is the last slide of a lesson. We could tell the learners, just maybe a summary of what they want to hear. I guess the summary of what the lesson was, and we could just have an exit button somewhere and tell the learner to leave the lesson. So we can just do maybe another button, kind of like how we had on our introduction slide. And we'll go to Style, Image button, or you can choose whichever button you want. But we use this little cloud button, and we can just have Exit. Let's make sure that it's entirely on the page, and click on it. Go to Actions, and there's a selection that says Exit. So see, that's pretty much it. Or you can have other buttons here that replay lesson. You can jump to the first slide if you want. If you want to redo the whole lesson. So let's go ahead and do that. Add another button here. Button. And let's see. Image button. And we're going to, let's see, maybe replay, if there's a replay. Yeah, I don't think there's a replay for this one, so what we're going to do, and what we can do, is change this to maybe a text button, and go into the caption part of this, and maybe say replay lesson. Replay lesson. And click out of it, click on it, and we're going to change the size of it and make sure that it's nice and easily visible, because the text can sometimes not be visible if we don't have a big enough button. Let's see, I like to use some of these, if you see there was a little line here that kind of helps you make sure that each of the buttons or images or videos, they're kind of aligned. So I like to look at those when I'm, playing around with these buttons. So you can change the color of this if you want. I'll just leave it as is because you can take the time to mess around with the way it looks. And so what we could do if we want to make this go back to the beginning, we could just say jump to slide 1 of 1. That's our introductory slide. You can double check that. And so I think that's about it. There are other videos on YouTube and Adobe Captivate's Adobe Forms if you want to kind of find creative buttons to mess around with it. So don't forget to save. If you want to preview your lesson, you can go to a browser and preview this to see how it will behave. It's very important to preview and kind of just make sure that each button and each page behaves the way you want it to, because if you don't test it, learners might kind of get something that they're not wanting to see, and sometimes your lesson might be broken and it won't do what you wanted it to do. So it's important to test it. I can go to next. Oh, see, I already figured out that I don't like that click sound, and I forgot to uncheck the click sound. So if we go to that one and see Google search, yeah, it takes me to Google, and so you can click off of that and it goes back in there. And I don't know if you saw what it just did, but because I didn't have a pause button, it actually automatically went to the next slide. So we're going to have to play around with it. I think I might want to have a pause button there and it can go back to a different slide. But this is the second question, or the second choice slide. And if you see that we'll have the students, have basically select one of these. They can select this one. And it's incorrect. They'll try again. The same thing with this one. It's incorrect. Try again. And if I click this one, it should go to the next slide after that feedback caption disappears, and it did. So, see, we can replay lesson, or we can just go to back to through the lesson again. and click exit, and so it tells the learner to exit. Alright, so if we wanted to fix that that sound, we just click on next, and there should be a checkbox right here that says disable click sound, and that'll get rid of that click sound, or you can add something like a very different sound to it. So that's about it. Well, and I guess if you want, you can create back buttons here too. That might help navigation purposes too. So play around with it, see what works for you and what works for your learners. Have a learner test it out to make sure that it's intuitive for them. So if you have any questions, let me know. I guess I'll talk to you later. See you next time.